The cult film Bram Stoker's Dracula had a lot of people in a chokehold. The film was brilliant, but undeniably the costumes took up half the reasons why this film is as iconic as it is. And trust me, the stories behind the costumes for this film go way deeper than you expected. And with Nosferatu being the most hyped horror film in recent months, I want to take you through a journey of cool costume design Easter eggs and fun facts of this timeless film in which the book it's based on inspired Nosferatu in the first place. This whole video is guided by the paper written by Roberto Rodriguez titled Blood and Couture Dracula by Eiko Ishioka that I've discovered a little more than 2 years ago now. I hope this video not only open your eyes to one of my favorite costumes, but also give you an insight into what a legend the costume designer Eiko Ishioka was and how much thoughts were given into costume designing, because it wasn't as simple as point A to point B. A little background about Eiko Ishioka. First, the Japanese graphic designer slash artist was a hidden icon. She collaborated with Izzy Miyake in many occasions, and she was also the genius mind behind these gorgeous Apocalypse Now posters, which was one of her first encounter in collaborations with director Francis Ford Coppola, also the director for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Moreover, she also created this unsettling ad for Japanese department store Parco. Her philosophy behind this was to do anything possible, artistically of course, to get people's attention. What I'm trying to say is she had the resume, she had the experience, and she had the artistic genius and wow factor to make one of the most stunning costumes for this film, and that she did. And no, I'm not the only one saying this. According to Francis Ford Coppola, as quoted by Rodriguez in this paper, he said that by bringing in Eiko, I knew I was ensuring that at least one element of the film would be completely atypical, absolutely new and unique. If you've seen the movie, you would understand that Coppola's statement of her creating something atypical, new, and unique is 100% truthful. And if you haven't seen the film yet, what I mentioned so far should set the tone for what I'm about to show you. In this section of the paper, Roberto went over some more facts about Eiko Ishioka's attitude towards costume design, which serves as a red thread going forward. Roberto quoted Eiko Ishioka saying that costumes should be more than just items that explain the role of actors who wear them. Costumes should have enough force to challenge the actors and everyone on set, and at the same time, they should challenge the audience and make them think about why the actor is wearing that costume. Eiko Ishioka took that statement to an extreme, where her costume designs would sometimes require a change of set or scripts being rewritten, demonstrated in Bram Stoker's Dracula in the scene where Lucy Westenra, played by Sadie Frost, was turning into a vampire. In this scene, she has this heavy white dress with frilly collar that resembles a frilled dragon, and this was intentional as Eiko Ishioka wanted the transformation to look haunting. However, this dress was originally a wedding dress, which means that it is extremely heavy, or at least weighed enough to immobilize the wearer. In this scene, the weight of the dress was actually hindering actress Sadie Frost from doing her original elaborated choreograph. Francis Ford Coppola intended to have the character Lucy slide along walls just like the frilled dragon lizard that inspired the costume. He wanted the character to have very animalistic movements that was popular in horror genre back then, just like The Exorcist. So Sadie Frost was unable to complete the intended choreograph due to her costume. Eiko Ishioka thought about changing the costume completely to help with the scene stick to the script, but the fact that you can see her in the dress right here should give you the answer that the director decided to keep the dress on and change the script instead, getting rid of any aerobatic stunts for the sake of keeping the dress on, simply because Coppola loved this dress so much in the scene. And just a little side note, director Francis Ford Coppola also played a huge part in the birthing of the film's costumes. Back when Eiko Ishioka first accepted the job, she was a bit worried that the result would not be as intended, because apparently she was not used to just manning one job on set. She was used to heading multiple departments. She would design the costumes and also have decision power in lighting, and many more. And now that she's only taking care of the costume design department, she was very wary. However, Francis Ford Coppola basically reassured Eiko Ishioka by showing her all the research he had done, and also reassured her that the biggest investment would be in the costume design department. The director's commitment to the film and also costume designing was what changed Eiko Ishioka's mind. So besides the script-bending dress, what else has Eiko Ishioka cooked up for the rest of the film? Apparently there were requests from Coppola and also the film's art director Thomas E. Sanders and Garrett Lewis for Eiko to craft her costumes according to various art pieces and art periods, specifically according to a book called Dreamers of Decadence, Symbolist Painters of the 1890s. So to bring this to life, Eiko Ishioka had to diligently combine her own artistic visions with theirs. One of the first things that this paper pointed out was the golden cloak that Dracula wore, which was crafted after the famous Gustav Klimt painting, The Kiss, a painting from 1907. As you can see here, the correlation between a painting and the cloak, the kind of mosaic pattern and the golden color. She also decided to incorporate a Hotogetria, the icon of the Mother of God, which theoretically speaking doesn't really make much sense because, as stated here by Rodriguez, it goes against the script and the story because Dracula is sensitive to Christian icons and symbols. Having an iconophilic cloak on the very being that hates it is kind of cool to see. Maybe it conveys the power that Dracula has accumulated over the years, maybe it's just cool looking, I don't know. But it's an interesting choice for sure. Another specific request / reference to the 1890s art happens on Dracula's Three Brides. Eiko Ishioka was tasked to create costume that referenced Czech painter Alphonse Mucha's Art Nouveau work. As seen here, a side-by-side comparison, Alphonse Mucha's painting and the bride's dresses. Similar sheer elements, similar whimsy, similar kind of visual magic. Very soft. But as the paper stated, Eiko Ishioka does not work with literality in her work. Her vision is always processed and digested before applying. Quoting her, "With my costumes, I aimed for a symbolic reflection of the culture of the characters in the film. Their culture was a hybrid, a mixture of East and West. These costumes represent my visual interpretation of this unique union of East and West." Eiko Ishioka is not trying to perfectly recreate an era, style, or color. Instead, she pays symbolic homage by exaggerating recognizable features of a particular period or culture. And because she refused to be literal, she finds different points of importance and exaggerates it. So it's not so much about being historically accurate, but different symbols that signifies the period the characters are in. In this instance, the excessiveness. And as she said, the audience doesn't need a historian, they need excitement. And excitement she provided, best represented by her creation of the Dracula's armor. The armor is red and striations all over, a completely unconventional way of portraying a warrior's armor, given how Vlad the Impaler was alive in the 1400s Wallachia, which would be modern-day Romania. A historically accurate armor for Wallachian soldiers would look more like this. But once again, it's not about historical accuracy. This was Eiko's way of drawing parallel to Dracula's connection with blood, basing the armor off of the anatomical figure you'd see in biology textbooks. And the wolf ear helmet was also a reference to Dracula's ability to turn into a wolf-like monster. Pretty simple. If you look at the helmet from the side, you'd also probably figure what the helmet was possibly modeled after. Yes, the samurai helmets. Besides the jaw-droppingly cool armor, another major costume worn by Dracula is his red robe, which is my favorite costume in the film. Blood and couture for reals. The depiction here is that he is significantly weaker and comparatively nicer Dracula. And first thing you probably notice is his hair, which is a classic pouf, I think that's how you pronounce it, worn by French royalty. Really distinctive choice, not how you normally would imagine Dracula to be, honestly, and that's exactly Eiko's intention, to present Dracula in something so fresh that each time he appears on screen, the audience will be stunned. And on the robe he's wearing here, you can see two dragons. Now, there's two meanings here. One, the obvious Orientalist, or more specifically Chinese reference here, is the emperor's robe. In ancient Chinese history, only the emperor or empress or concubines of the first rank can wear the color yellow, and only the emperor can have any embroidery to do with dragons. So this indicates that Dracula is an emperor, a king. And on the other hand, the name Dracula in Romania means son of Dracul, or son of the dragon, because the word Dracul on one hand means the devil, but it also derives from this Latin word which means dragon. So this isn't a random slapping on of symbols to indicate power or anything. Well, maybe that as well, but it was intended to depict the son of dragon and his irreplaceable power together like a king. And in this scene right here, when Dracula is walking through the hallway, the extra long train on the red robe was meant to represent a sea of blood following him. Quoting Eiko Ishioka once again, in his youth, Dracula lived in Istanbul and would have been influenced by Turkish culture and dress. As seen in this costume, the cloak is red, and the enormous train was designed to undulate when he rushes about his castle like a sea of blood. My absolute favorite fact from this film. But wait, obviously there's more. When crafting the costumes for Dracula, Eiko Ishioka also intentionally made the character more androgynous. She said that Dracula is constantly changing in a different mood each time, like a kaleidoscope. And that explains the ebb and flow between hard and soft line, mask and femme features in costumes, hair, and makeups. And honestly, the fact that she made each version of Dracula so different from one another, but still never steered away from the costume's thesis is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Obviously, it's not just about Dracula, this film. Rodriguez also dedicated a whole section in their paper to Elisabeta and Mina's costume, played by Winona Ryder. And this quote right here should give you the answer to why Rodriguez needed a whole section for these two characters. For Mina's costumes, Eiko Ishioka created a whole department dedicated just for her costumes, with the involvement of another prolific costume designer, Dale Wibbin, who was involved in creating costumes for Titanic, Chicago, and Suicide Squad. And the department got the budget to directly import silk from France and Italy to create Mina's dress. In James Hart's script, he intended to have Mina as a Deus Ex Machina effect on the film, and therefore there are quite a bit of emphasis on the character, and this emphasis was scattered throughout the movie. Like the final scene of the film, a visual parallel was drawn with the ceiling painting right here with Dante's painting of Paolo and Francesca da Rimini. Elisabeta, on the other hand, was deemed as one of the most pivotal characters in the film, despite short screen time. Her death at the start of the film was what drove the plot towards this direction. So when Elisabeta was tricked by the Ottoman Empire about Dracula's death and subsequently led to her demise, in this scene you can see her lying dead on the altar, and the position of Elisabeta's gown actually forms a phoenix tail. And this once again draws connections to something that I previously discussed, which is Dracula's dragon. He is the dragon, Elisabeta is the phoenix, referencing to ancient Chinese myth of dragon and phoenix, like the yin and yang, the classic Chinese mythological duo. Just like the painting I mentioned, Eiko Ishioka wanted to show Dracula and Elisabeta's unbreakable bond, where Dracula would rather go to hell than spending eternal afterlife in heaven without Elisabeta, by comparing their love to the inseparable mythological pair, dragon and phoenix. And honestly, what a move, what a way to bring the movie to the next level with subtle costume details. And so far, I assume that your mind is understandably blown like myself back when I first read this paper, or maybe you're not quite there yet, so let this one final costume Easter egg be the crown jewel of this video. One really bold and assertive thing that Eiko Ishioka did for Elisabeta and Mina Harker is that before the movie's climax, there was no way to tell if Mina was actually the reincarnation of Elisabeta. Maybe you guessed it since it's played by the same actress, but there weren't confirmations yet. So Eiko Ishioka, being the genius costume designer that she was, decided to link the two characters together with the color green. Elisabeta wearing darker green, Mina wearing lighter green. Eiko Ishioka decided to tease the plot of the film with her artistic choice, tying everything together before it's even revealed. And safe to say, the intelligence and weight Eiko Ishioka added to the film via her beautiful costume creation has immortalized this film for many people. A well-deserved Oscars.